Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this session, an exclusive session through Women in Technology Communities. For all of you who are new to our today's session, we have 9 communities on our platform, which are a great way of engaging with women across the technology universe, learning a lot of new things, speaking to leaders as today, masterclasses, and many more exciting events that help you stay connected and benefit from. Today, we have an exclusive leadership session with Usha Viriyala, who is from Fractal. Fractal is our leading partner for our community on big data and analytics, and I'm very delighted to welcome Usha. Just a little bit about her before we get into a conversation with uh, Usha is going to talk to us about the impact of mentoring in gender diversity. Usha is an analytics leader. She comes with 19 plus years of experience and is currently leading the CPG domain at Fractal Analytics. She started her career with a market research firm in the US and subsequently moved to Symphony Services India, followed by long stints at Genpact and Manthan Services. Usha has deep knowledge, which is very domain expert related in building analytical solutions, handling pre sales activities, and specializes in leading delivery teams across US, Western Europe, and Middle Eastern markets. She has a background in engineering and is a postgraduate in quantitative analysis, which is applied statistics from the University of Cincinnati, Ohio, US. Usha likes to spend her leisure time reading about world history and travel and engages in activities related to arts and humanities. She's a big movie buff and also holds a keen interest in various sports, though she is an armchair sports person. Usha, thank you very much for joining us today. And if I have missed anything about your introduction, please do feel free to add that now.
Thank you, Serena. Happy to be here and very excited to be part of this conversation. And WiT is doing a great service to all the women in the technology community, and I hope to contribute in whatever little way I can.
Thank you very much, Usha. Our topic for today, as you know, is around mentorship. And I'm sure in your career, you would have seen how significant that can be in terms of contributing, towards women development, shaping their future. So the first question that I'd like to ask you is, why is female mentorship in the workplace more important than ever?
Sure. See, any report that you see these days on labor statistics, it's very clear that the participation of women, it reduces like a funnel from the beginner level to the C-suite. Added to that is what is going to happen in the next few years. If you recall, the baby boomers are now arriving the retirement stage. So very soon there's going to be a lacuna in the leadership benches in a few years from now. So when you have very few women already, of course, many organizations are trying their best to recruit women at various levels of the organization. But when you have this funnel thinning down, and when you have such lacuna in the leadership, there are junior women who have no one to look up to. I mean, there is no signal for them that they can advance. And this clubbed with the whole fact of the middle career management of women, that when the woman really is torn between the work pressure and the family pressure, is when either due to choice or necessity or default, they are compelled to take some decisions which disqualify them from moving on in their workplace. In all this, I think what happens is women do not have access to or have less access to people or opportunities or inputs. And input is the operative word here. That's where I feel mentorship plays a big role, where somebody can, hold their hand and guide them in making those crucial decisions at different crossroads. It's a known fact across multiple studies that gender parity, in fact, helps the organizations with their bottom line. So much so that one of the reports says that in the next couple of decades, healthy gender parity could increase the global GDP by 12%. So gender parity is no longer an equality issue in my mind. It's more an economic issue. And I think organizations will do really well if they think of it as an economic issue as well.
Absolutely. I think that's become very, very apparent now. And as we see, especially the last few months, and the impact that COVID has had on women employment, women dropping out due to again multiple pressures, as you said, from various aspects. I think it's become a very, very important topic for us to all ponder on, but more importantly, take action for. And like you rightly said, mentorship plays a very, very important role in helping, support these women in making sure they're able to take those right decisions. And I know we've all seen it in our careers. What I have seen, and I'm sure you have, is that women generally feel very hesitant while approaching for support. So, what's your view on it, and what are some of the experiences or learnings that you could share with our audience here today?
Sure. I would say women generally are hesitant in asking support. I would say it is in the context of workplace, and otherwise women are quite open to asking for help. Unlike the very classic cliched example that we have of men not wanting to ask for directions even when they're lost. So that apart, I think what I have seen is, in the workplace, women are generally not self-promoting. They will not raise their hand to say, I did this. I mean, the claim to an achievement is lower. And as we all know, I mean, literature is filled with all these concepts, where they call it the imposter syndrome, where there is a certain kind of self-doubt that the woman feels that, am I actually qualified enough to lay claim on it, or am I, maybe there's somebody else better to do this job. What happens is, if we realize that this is science, it is not you, it is science, because there are certain hormones which enhance confidence, and apparently those are in abundance in the men. There are certain neurons that help women become better at social perceptiveness, which is understanding non-verbal cues and expressions. So we are better at collaboration and empathy. So that's how we are wireframed. But then leaving it on science will not help. What we need to do is bring a rational thinking and see why is it. I mean, question yourself that where is the evidence that you have failed before? Why is that fear there? And again, here mentorship plays a big role. To allay those fears and to relate experiences with each other, to say that, what, it's perfectly fine. There is a big difference between feeling incompetent and being incompetent. I think what women most often fall in the trap of is feeling incompetent. So I have seen that when something goes wrong, we tend to blame self. When something goes well, we credit the environment. There's a lot more room to grow, but that's fine. It's a journey we are taking. And again, here, I know our topic is mentorship, but I truly believe that looking at certain leaders, even male or female or any other diverse group, can help overcome this fear of self-doubt. I think that is the biggest obstacle in for women to go forward with confidence.
Could you recall from your experience, as a working woman and as a leader within this area, where you had needed some help and support, and how did you go about it? Could you share a personal experience with us in this?
I could go back in time, but I could tell a very, very recent example, as recent as last week. If you take this talk, I was approached to hold this talk, and my immediate reaction was, maybe I'm not the right person. Maybe there are such great women in Fractal, and managing much wider responsibilities, both work and home. That the community could learn more from them. Will I be able to do justice? There is this innate desire for perfection that we have. That unless we are absolutely sure that the outcome is going to be successful, we are wary to tread that path. So I spoke to a few colleagues of mine, and they said, whatever we know of you, you will do just well. I mean, whatever you share, at least somebody will benefit. So just go forward with it. And in the past, of course, there have been many occurrences where I was at crossroads in, taking up a role or a position, and either my reporting manager or mostly friends have both male and female friends, and I have wider community of friends from the LGBTQ community as well. Excellent human beings who give you a very different perspective, and they have helped me, overcome that fear. I have to admit, I still have that fear, and I still hold that self doubt many a times.
Of course. Um, we have also seen, as you said, whether it's an individual criteria or sometimes family, social, and sometimes organizations that lead women to settle for less than what they would, ideally aspire for or want in terms of, their own growth and their own, journey ahead. How can women have more fulfilling careers and get roles that they aspire for?
Hmm. We need to question. We need to challenge. See, um, it is not by design. I would say it just so happened that we live in a very masculine model of organized work, and it is no fault of anybody. It just happened over years and years of evolution of humankind, and and hence it doesn't lend itself easily to the kind of problems women face when they enter workspace. That's where I feel definitely women will have to learn certain new skills. Again, mentorship plays a key role there in terms of networking. For some reason, networking has a very negative connotation. The minute we say networking, the picture in mind that comes is, okay, I have a beer with a colleague, or I go down for a smoke and I do politicking, I gossip. That may be one small part of it, but networking also means that you are aware of what kind of opportunities are coming up, what's happening in the industry, where are other leaders like you or women like you struggling, and how have they been able to cross that obstacle, or cross that hurdle. So networking is very important. Negotiation is a skill that women are not excellent at. And negotiation, again, the minute we say negotiation, the thing that comes to mind is compensation or a promotion. No. Negotiation is also about, the clarity that you have about a role that you're taking. It's also about asking or mapping your strength to what is available there. So to be able to do that, you need somebody to coach you very early in your career. Of course, mentorship is a journey, so you can keep learning all through your career. But I think women have to question this model where there are cultural norms and ideas that have been shaped over many, many years, and also upskill in certain areas, which, there is nothing wrong in that. It's not that you're out of your character. There are certain non negotiables that all of us have. You don't have to compromise on that. But there are certain things that you have to acquire for you to be able to do well. And that's where a mentor plays a big role. And I believe, strongly believe, that a cross gender mentoring helps a lot for both the mentor and the mentee. Many a times we say, well, same gender mentoring is maybe better because you can empathize, but you can also become quickly judgmental because you could say, hey, I have done this, why are you not able to? As opposed to somebody across gender would maybe look at it in a very objective way. So I think there is a lot that women can do to fulfill their careers. Like I said, to start with, a question, not as a rebel. I mean, if you want to, that's perfectly your prerogative. But I think a rational questioning is always welcome in any organization.
So, and you've already alluded to, some parts of a response to my next question, which is um, how does having a mentor help, and how can women best utilize their mentorship journey? Again, bits and pieces you already spoke about, but if you could just cohesively bring that together for our participants today, that will be very useful.
Sure, sure. Um, yeah, I'll maybe at the risk of repeating myself, mentorship, definitely will help our community break the barriers and the fears that we carry, unfounded, I would say. And also, it's mentorship journey. It's like traveling. So when you travel, you go to new cities, and every time you travel, you learn. It's the same way. Every time you talk to a mentor, and you should have a few. Either you reach out or somebody reaches out to you. Um, every interaction has a reflective power, as they say, because they talk about certain things which opens your eyes to a newer world. So definitely having a mentor, will help in overcoming some of these obstacles, which in our current model of workplace that we have, doesn't allow us naturally to progress.
And just building on to that, again, in your view, what are the different ways that somebody could get mentorship support? What are the various avenues and ways of getting that, supported along your journey?
Mm, Broadly, I mean, I would say there are these formal and informal mentoring, like we say. For instance, um, let's say you and I have now had a chat, and I feel that there is, a lot more I would like to know from you about the work that you do, and we establish a relationship. That's an informal way of, through the network, you get your informal mentoring. Formal mentoring is something that organizations can provide, and but the watch out there is that there are a lot of these leadership programs that have been in existence for like decades. And recently, what they have started to see is the leadership development programs for women have not been built in the right frame of analysis. By that, what I mean is we decide that women as a problem, not is a problem, as a problem. By that, what I mean is that we have, okay, only 10% representation of women in the team. That's a problem. Or we say, let's celebrate differences. Or we say, let's provide equal opportunity. My contention with that is none of these will still solve the problem of enabling women to overcome the fear and obstacle or their access to people or network, which will help them accelerate their careers. So I think the frame that we need to use is accept the complex role of gender that plays, and then design your trainings around it. So to your question, there is formal mentoring for sure, and all organizations are striving to do that, and Fractal does a very good job of that. And of course, there are informal, where even within your office space, you could reach out, to anybody. Like I have had mentors, and I have mentored people who, in no shape or form, either reported to me or we were in the same even line of work.
And I'm sure you've had a lot of positive feedback from these mentees, about how it has made a difference to their life. I can share a bit of my experience, and which I have seen over the past, 2 decades. There are sometimes very situational kind of mentorship discussions that you could have, which is really an event that somebody is going through and they need help support on to learn from somebody else's experiences, and of course mentorship journey which could go over a longer period of time, which really has mid to longer term goals, for a mentee, helping them get clarity on what they want, and sometimes that becomes a very very big milestone in the lives of women, especially where they've done their education, they've gotten into the corporate world, and then somewhere they lose focus on what is it that they really want. So to get that clarity, mentorships always prove to be a very very useful tool and way of being, as I've seen, and again,
Absolutely.
through the journey, at various whether it's biological events of your life, which is maternity, or certain social events, which could be either marriage, mobility that comes into play, if you have to move cities either due to a husband's job, or some of those very real life situations that we come to face, and how as a woman you can kind of tackle those and handle those. And of course, even women in technology offers mentorship support and programs, so we are always delighted to be able to partner with women wherever we can in that way.
Yeah. And if I
Before I
may
go
add,
on,
Sarina,
sorry,
sorry, if I may add,
go on.
I mean, when you said something came to my mind, is that like you rightly said, there are certain kind of mentorship conversations you would like to have when all you need is, confirmation, friendship, acceptance, and some kind of a coaching. There are certain mentorship conversations where you need somebody to give you that sponsorship, that visibility, those critical challenges. And there are certain where there are, role models where you would like to understand what attitudes, behaviors that are required. So yeah, at every different crossroad that a woman undergoes, and every stage, whether single, married, separated, divorced, child, no child, whatever. I think mentorship plays a great role there.
Absolutely, you're totally right about that. Um, I am going to just request all our viewers and participants to please type in any questions that they may have, and we'll pick those up, in about 10 to 15 minutes, and we'll then, before that, just go on with the conversation. So, Usha, let's make it a little more fun for everybody. I'm going to get into a rapid fire round with you.
Okay.
So, I'm going to just say a word, and I would like you to, within 10 seconds, come up with the word that comes to your mind when I say that word, right?
All right.
So if you're ready, we get set go.
We get set go.
All right. So the first word, women in technology.
Bold.
Sorry, could you repeat that for me?
I said bold. Bold.
Bold. Favorite movie?
Shawshank Redemption.
Sports.
Tennis. Lawn tennis.
I thought you were going to say armchair. Mentoring.
Fulfilling.
Family.
Priority.
Diversity and inclusion.
Non-negotiable.
Career.
A must.
Travel.
Enlightening.
Failure.
Absolute.
So that was really the rapid fire round. Thank you very much for that. And with failure, I share this in almost every conversation that I'm having, as to how critical failure is to success. And I say this, I guess, multiple times, so at the risk of sounding really repetitive. Fail again, fail better, and celebrate failure, which I think becomes such a key milestone also in our lives, and how it makes you value success so much and strive for success so much more. So that's just my one bit. Just
Absolutely.
moving on. You know, any other personal story about mentorship that you have seen or experienced where it's really made a positive impact in the life of the mentee? If you could share that, I think that would be very, very helpful for some of our viewers to understand and see.
Sure. So it's it may be a little non-traditional because the kind of advice I gave was also such. But there was this individual working with me a few years ago, and he was at that crossroads, like you were saying. What am I doing? Where am I going from here? And very very sharp individual, doing very well, earning well, and he would have climbed up the ranks very easily. I mean, there was no doubt about that. But there was no satisfaction per se in what he was doing. So he came to me and he said, "You know what? I don't know what to do." So I said, "Okay, should I change your team and different pillar, etc., etc. Should I move to a different organization? The usual kind of counseling that we do." He said, "No, there's something else missing. I don't know what." And so I said, "All right, you have now about 12 years of experience, and since you're okay financially, I mean, for at least a couple of years, there is no financial liability, you quit your job." So he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Yeah, I'm sure. You just quit and go." He said he was interested in some mass communication kind of a thing, and he likes to work with children, etc. I said, you just quit and you join something like Teach for India and see how it is. It's a completely different ballgame. It's not corporate. It's rural. It's very closer to the ground level experience. No comfy job around you. No high salaries, etc. Try. And he did. He did think for a few weeks, of course, and then he finally came and said, "Usha, I'm quitting." I said, "All right." Of course, my HR was not very happy. They said, "That's not how you manage attrition." But I said, "No, I think it's good for that individual. Let them, and they'll come back if let them experience that." So he did, and there has been no turning back from there. He went for Teach for India, then he enjoyed that experience. He got some confidence, and he found meaning in what he was doing. He said, of course, from there on, he started his own firm, and now he's doing very well. He's an independent consultant. He might come back to the corporate world, but he keeps pinging me once in a while, saying that crossroad, what you told me was, very very helpful. So it's humbling. I was very scared because that's not the kind of advice you should give a very bright, aspiring young professional. But I thought that's very very fulfilling. That he's happy.
In fact, if that advice really helped that person reach or take the next step, which was best for them, I think that's absolutely the a good mentor advice that anybody could have given. Um, what would be your advice to women in technology overall?
Hmm. Um, I think I've spoken a little about it, about gaining some skills and having a mentor, etc. But at the risk of sounding unpopular, I would say that we, the women in technology, should not think of ourselves as a victim. As cliched as it may sound, I think we have to be the change that we want to see. It's a long journey. It's a very, very long journey and very hard journey. I mean, I'm one of the few privileged women, I think, who comes from a well-to-do, middle class, of course, but educated family, and everybody supported my education, etc. But there are many who struggle, so I understand that. But I still think that we have to, you know, um, be very open to the idea of accepting certain changes, accepting criticism. It will not be easy. We will have to hone our skills. There are certain skills that the corporate world requires. See, it's a different roles, right? Each of us play different roles, even the men. But for a woman, you play different roles, and in each role, you bring a different your self to that role. It's similar in the corporate world, and you have to, you know, if like I said, if networking is something that helps careers in a positive way, that's a skill that you develop, and for that, you need help. You ask for help. uh, you ask you ask somebody to ask help on your behalf. That is also okay, but don't shy away. I think we have to take care of ourselves, the community, as much as possible. This brings me to one of the very good books I read recently by Yuval Noah Harari, and you know an excellent historian. Of course, he wrote three books, and *Sapiens* is my favorite of them, where he has said that we need to, the human history, can be categorized in three buckets, which is the cognitive revolution, the agricultural revolution, and the scientific revolution. Of course, it took thousands of years to get there, what we are now. I think the kind of change we are trying to bring, I hope it will not take centuries again, maybe a few decades, but maybe inclusivity revolution is something that has to come, and we have to drive the change. That's what I would say. So don't be shy, don't be afraid. It's perfectly okay to be different.
Sure, and I would kind of echo that too. Let me pick up a couple of questions that have come from our audience and viewers today. The first one is from Anamika. And the question is, what's the most important leadership lesson you've learned, and how has it proved invaluable?
Okay. Hi, Namika. Thank you for the question. The most important lesson I have learned and I'm still learning is, uh, to have an open mind when you're dealing with anybody, your juniors, your colleagues, your seniors, because there is something that you learn from everybody. A leader is someone who, and I don't believe I'm still a leader, honestly, but a leader is someone who can make themselves redundant very soon, which means you're shaping up people so well that they are able to do their job by themselves without you needed to be there. And you move on. They move on, and then you move on. So, like I said, I think humility, of course, is, it's, I cannot rate it higher than anything else. Humility and an open mind, and just accept people and their differences, and you will see you will become a wonderful leader.
Thank you for that. We have another question from Milan, and Milan is thanking you for sharing your views with us, and wants to know how to embrace risk taking in life.
I think we briefly touched upon that, Serena. You also talked about failure. So, Milan, each one of us, has that fear, and I'm quite risk averse, like I told you at the beginning of the talk. I think the confidence that you need to build is, what is the worst that can happen? You'll fail. That's all right. The minute you tell yourself it's all right to fail, at Fractal, that's what our founders keep saying, that, let's fail fast. That's okay. Experiment, fail fast, and move on. That's perfectly fine. So the risk taking appetite will only build if you start to, you know, make that leap of faith. Fail. It's perfectly okay. And over a period of time, you will be okay to take as many risks as possible, and you'll be perfectly okay with the outcome. In fact, you will not even think about the outcome. The risk aversity comes with the fact that, what if I fail? And that confidence has to come within you, and confidence can be built only by acting with it. So you have to build that. You seek help from your friends or colleagues or your superiors to help you overcome that fear.
Thank you for that, Usha. We have actually a few more questions, so I'm just going to move on to the next one. And this is from Priya. Do you have any quick tips for re-energizing an overworked team? I think we have all faced that at multiple points of time. But what would you say?
Yeah, Priya, yes, I can totally relate to where you're coming from. Um, I think most of what I would say is something you would have already tried, which is, having those, let's say, Friday early closure, or virtual hangouts, etc. What we have also tried to do is, given a day off. Well, of course, now it practically doesn't really matter, because nobody's able to travel, etc. But because of the burnout, we have said to the team, just take a day off. While Fractal has a very, very flexible leave policy, there is no leave policy per se. I mean, they say you're all adults, you can take care of yourselves, or your work schedules. But what that symbolically does is gives the team a feeling that, what, at least my leader cares, or at least accepts that there is a burnout and that I need rest. And we keep emphasizing that point, me to my direct reports and they to their direct reports, saying that please take time off, please do not work on weekends, please do this. Still, it is there is no silver bullet to it. To be honest, we have not solved for it. But overstressed team, that's the best I do. I tell them it's perfectly okay to shut shop. The heavens won't fall. It's okay. And once they hear that from you or somebody senior, they feel good about it.
Yeah, and it's nice to bring a little bit of a human perspective to work, because we do go with a with a feeling of trust with our teams, right? And we always like to believe that they are putting in their best and trying to solve for the best and creating that value. And so if at a time they need that support of just being and letting go as a leader, I think that's a very good way to be able to support them. The next question is actually a very, very interesting one. It comes from Pooja. What can be the potential cause of the mentor mentee relationship to fail or not work?
Interesting question, like you said. Um, I would say it's the cause would be similar to any relationship failing, you know, which is uh, not having an open mind, which also which converts to, let's say, being judgmental. The minute you hear somebody saying something, you've already formed an opinion and you already want to tell them something and you want them to follow that. So mentoring is not about I tell you do. Mentoring is about you tell me what's your situation and let me put myself in that situation and see how best I would have come out of it. So when that empathy is missing, and I would say missing, or maybe some people are unable to show that empathy, or they feel that why is it that this person is not getting my advice? There is no right or wrong about advice, and there is no rule that what a mentor says a mentee has to follow, and the mentor shouldn't get offended about that. At the same time, I think the basic tenet is you should have mutual respect and trust. You should trust that what the other person is saying is for your benefit. You have to build that. You have to earn that. Only when that is built, then you'll be able to accept, even if it's a criticism, very openly. Otherwise, you are building it on a very weak foundation. I mean, it is bound to crack.
That's very well said. And if I could just add in my one bit, I think trust is a very, very important factor. Similar to what you're saying. So, just building that trust is very important. And somewhere where that fails, I think the relationship could get a little shaky, or probably not work in the best way it's meant to. So that's where I would just add a point. We have some very, very nice questions. So thank you, ladies, for all those who have asked these questions. I'm sure they're benefiting everybody who's listening to us. The next question comes from Chetna, and Chetna asks, what is your advice to little girls under 10 interested in solving STEM problems? Do the recent events in the US give you more hope for fast track changes in diversity and inclusion?
Thanks, Chetna, for bringing that up. Uh, yes, it does give me hope, but yeah, that yes and but is not a good combination and answer, I know. But in the Indian context, I think we have some room to go. Um, Forget about kids under the age of 10. They can still, I think we can still inculcate that interest, and we can still facilitate their growth there. It is after their primary school or higher secondary school, rather, we see a lot of every 10th result that comes, and it's purely Indian context, so I'm sorry if people from other regions have joined. Every report that you see will talk about girls' outstanding results and overtaking the boys in their science and math results. And then what happens? So that is so till there looks like things are progressing all right, and that's a crossroad, I think, and that's a topic for another day. Where how do we bring in how do we facilitate growth, or remove the hurdles at that stage in a girl child's life. So I have no clear answer or a point of view right now, Chetna. But I hope what's happening in the US is something that we should reflect upon.
Thank you. Next, Madhavi. And Madhavi says, hi, Usha, you have a lot of wonderful points about mentorship. What are some of the important skills according to you for current times in tech or otherwise? I think, Usha, you've already answered that to a great extent. You've spoken about networking, about negotiation, Also, asking for help, absolutely is something that I think is a skill that does need to be developed. It needs practice. But anything else that you'd like to add beyond what you've already covered?
Of course, because it's women in tech, technical skills for sure, without which you won't even have a launching pad. When I say ask for help, one more thing that you will, a skill that you will have to develop, if not already there, is asking for explicit feedback. What I have seen in my experience is somewhere the non-concise feedback comes to women, and especially from men. There could be some kind of a discomfort, um, when when a colleague is giving feedback to a female colleague. I'm not sure. I don't have any studies supporting me here, but I have seen that in experience. So what we should, and then we as women go back and think, okay, what did it mean? Did it mean this? Did it mean X, Y, Z? And why hypothesize? Ask for explicit feedback. I think that will really, when they say, what, you didn't step up well, what do you mean by stepping up? Tell me exactly what I could have done. And as a senior colleague, he or she should have enough examples to tell you, where you could have done better. So that is one more skill I would say that we usually don't ask. We just take feedback and nod our heads and come back. At least most of us do. Those who don't, that's great. But that's a skill that we need to develop.
Thank you, Usha. A question from Shweta next. And she asks, in your view, what could be the potential challenges or advantages in cross gender mentoring relationships?
Potential advantages and challenges, right? That's what. Yeah. So I think I very briefly touched about it. Like I said, I have had a mentor, and he just became a mentor over a period of time. So it's a he. And I think that is the best thing that has happened to my career. And it's now a big, good friend also, much, much senior. We couldn't have been more different in personalities, but that's what I feel is the advantage of a cross-gender mentorship, if done well, is the pure objectivity that comes to the discussion, because they will not jump to the idea of saying, yeah, I know what you're saying. I was also going through that. You know what I'm saying? So, because the relatability is less, sometimes being less relatable makes it more objective. And when there is more objective, there is a clear feedback. At the same time, because there are certain situational aspects to be considered, basis on which you have to advise somebody, that if you do not have enough understanding of the situation, then you will not be able to provide advice. So that is the limitation also, I would say. They will, across gender, whether it is, for example, I giving an advice to my male colleague also may not give him a very comfortable roadmap if I'm not able, because I'll not be able to understand what he is going through as a man in his whole household or whatever is the situation. So there are those limitations. There is that basically different genders and other diverse people also, if you include. Each comes with a specific constraint. I would say the way we are built, but there are, I would say, more advantages because it opens your eyes to look at somebody else's point of view, and that I think is very important as you grow in your career. It makes you a more complete individual.
Yes. And I would also add to that that it's always good to have male allies as supporters who can truly understand, when you as a woman are asking for help or raising an issue or a challenge, what exactly it means. So if we have those kind of cross-gender relationships, I think that also just helps build that awareness and that understanding, to a to a higher level, right? The next question is actually something which is very close to my own heart. And I can actually sense the passion in that question. So let me ask. It comes from Shikha. And Shikha asks, why do women try to be perfect in all roles they carry, whether a mother or a daughter or a professional, etc.? And if I may add one of my own question to this, Usha, to hear your view. I've tried to answer it for myself, that why do we always need to juggle so many balls all the time? Why don't we just take one ball and keep it away for some time and just pick it up after some more time? So, what do you say?
I think you just answered your question. Just drop the ball. Shikha, thank you for that question. Uh, let's blame it on science. I don't want to get away with that, but yeah, I think there is, like I said, there is that innate, quality or desire for perfection that someone has made us like that. So we need to fight it, and I am still fighting it. There are places where being a perfectionist has helped. There are places where I have messed up things beyond recognition, and I mean, even people get annoyed. I mean, what the heck? They say, what difference does it make if you have not crossed the T and dotted the I? And I say, no, that makes all the difference. So I think even I, fight with that syndrome. But like I said, it is a trait. The biggest help we can do ourselves is accept that at times it is counterproductive and be cognizant of the fact that it is not helping a particular task and let go. The let go is a very, very difficult thing to do for everybody. I mean, male, female, anybody, all the other diverse groups that we have. But we have to let go. There are certain traits and this whole, what do you say, passion to become perfect um, will not help. There are times where we need to learn how to make that choice, and that again can come from observing and seeking support and talking to individuals and seeing that not being perfect was also okay. I think once we see that, we'll be more comfortable with that idea. And to your point, Serena, yeah, I think now after almost a couple of decades of work ex and managing home and multiple other things, I have started to deprioritize and not feel guilty about it. That's more important, because we may deprioritize and then we will ruminate about it for like all night. So that's what I've started to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think very, very relevant questions to most of our lives. Um, this is one from Deepika, and Deepika asks, Usha, what would you suggest to a woman who wants to climb up the corporate ladder faster, given the responsibilities she carries?
All right, Deepika, it's a tough answer for a tough question. Like I said, we are still in a work model which is very, very masculine. If you want to climb the corporate ladder faster, there are some hard decisions you need to take in terms of prioritizing work over some of the home responsibilities, in terms of breaking some of the non-negotiables if at all you have. For example, um, taking certain calls at certain times of the day. If you have not been doing that, I'm not advocating that only if you stretch or you work crazy hours will you climb up the ladder. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that technology space is moving at such a fast pace, and all leaders, both men, women, everybody, are trying to make it a bit more streamlined. We are all going through a big juggernaut right now, but the pace at which it is going, unless you recharge yourself very quickly and play that game, for lack of a better phrase, it is difficult to accelerate. You will climb up your career very well, even while juggling all your responsibilities. But if you want to climb faster, there are certain sacrifices that you have to make, and men may be making it in their own way. Like this morning, I was speaking to my father, and he suddenly asked me, "So by the way, did you learn chess?" I said, "I'll ask my father and tell you." So he started to laugh. He's like, "Yeah, when you guys were growing up, I was just so busy. It was just so much. I didn't even know how you girls grew up in certain phase of life." So I think men also miss that out, but then they climb up their careers during that time. Maybe they don't have see their parents growing old, their children growing up, or whatever it is. I can't speak for them, but there are sacrifices that everybody makes. If you want to accelerate, that's the operative word. If you want to grow steadily, I think it is still manageable the way we want it to be.
Absolutely. And I think it's also a function of conditioning and how our family and society lives, especially in the Indian context, have expectations which are different from a woman than from a man, and how, certain compromises have to be made by one gender and not the other. And I guess that's what I personally do see changing. But it's also a very, very individual decision, is what I would say, right? And having that
Absolutely.
clarity. So if Deepika is clear that for an X amount of time, and whether that's for an X amount of time or, for her entire career, her career needs to be on a fast track, then everything around her, she has to make sure her decisions and choices are, helping her reach there. So
Yeah.
absolutely, it's a combination of individual and some of the things that exist around us. Usha, we have actually quite a few questions. This one I think we can pick a little quicker, maybe a very short one, because you've covered this already, where you spoke about the ways of mentoring. And Pooja asks this question: what do you prefer or recommend, formal or informal mentoring relationship, and why?
Um, it might seem like a politically correct statement, but I genuinely feel both are required. See, formal mentoring will give you some frameworks, some very clear action items to work on, and like I said, there are different kind of mentoring that an individual requires. So formal mentoring will give you you know a certain ways of accepting assignments, gaining visibility, networking, etc. Informal mentoring will help you in what kind of behavior, attitudes that you need to learn. So I think both are important. If you have a informal mentor who can be there with you for a long time, somebody has to know you well. Then that's fine. I mean, you can pick either. Then both are effective ways of getting mentored.
Thank you for that, Usha. There is a next question, which again, I think is quite a pertinent one, not directly related to mentoring, but probably we can just cover it very quickly, which is from Mansi. And Mansi asks, how do you think an organization can overcome the unconscious bias towards women in technology?
Um, yeah,
And sorry, if I
it is.
can add, if you
Yeah.
could share, Usha, from your perspective and in Fractal, some of the things that you do and that have been beneficial.
Absolutely. I mean, I would use natural examples that were coming to my mind as well from Fractal. Um, See, organization also, Fractal especially, is trying many different ways to remove this unconscious bias. And the minute you say unconscious, there's no easy way to remove it, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. Nonetheless, one thing that I have seen in Fractal work very well is that when women, go on maternity leave, usually in some organizations that role is taken up, somebody else is taking that role, and once that lady comes back, they see what is available, etc., etc. There are cases in my own team, and this is all credit to my predecessor. There are cases when the individual went for a maternity leave and that spot was maintained vacant, whether 3 months, 6 months, no matter what. The second layer was made ready, and the individual came back and took off from where she had left, and even better. So, that itself gives a lot of confidence and cushion to the ladies who are at that life stage. The other biases, in fact, this morning I was in a discussion on certain, promotions, etc., etc., and one of the male colleagues very nicely asked, looking at the list, saying that why is it that in your ranking, while everybody is equally capable, why is it that the woman name comes towards the end? Is there some, did you, what was your thinking? So the one who presented, I'm sorry about the ambient noise. The one who presented was taken aback and said, absolutely not. That was not at all on my mind. I was just thinking in terms of their technical capability, their roadmap, etc., etc. It just so happened that this is the ranking. But so the whole idea that somebody is even questioning, a main colleague is questioning another main colleague, that did you check it? Is there a bias in your mind? Itself is very rewarding. And Fractal, in fact, one of the joke that goes, not a joke, actually in a lighter way. One of our founders in one town hall said, you know what? Let's stop hiring Indian brown men. So everybody just gave a good laugh because that we said is not going to solve the problem, Shrikant. Well, it might help. Very nice of to give that thought. We said we're not going to penalize the Indian brown men, just to foster more women coming into the workforce and growing up the ladder. So Fractal is trying a very different, and now we have set up a diversity council, which is going to roll out a lot of programs, coaching across the ranks. So a lot of time and effort and activity is going behind this, and it's a combination of multiple people, not only women. So that way, Fractal is doing an excellent job.
That's absolutely great to hear, and I would like to also share that I think there are many organizations who are so much more now sensitive to some of these challenges and aspects, and lots is happening. We sure have a long way to go, but I think the step has been taken. I think it's a decision that organizations need to take, is to keep taking small baby
Yeah.
steps, or at some point of time take that leap, which will really make a significant difference. I'm conscious of time, but there are still more questions, so I will take a couple of them. The ones that are repeat ones, I will just skip. But just before I do that, I do want to again let all our audience know that women in technology, through this platform of communities and tying up with organizations like Fractal is leading our big data and analytics community. We have multiple sessions such as this, which are hearing from leaders, master classes on various subjects, ask me anything sessions. So please do register on those platforms and be part of all these. And I'm sure you're all finding it very helpful. So, Usha, just moving on, two related questions. One is that should women continue their higher education, and how important is it for women to pursue higher education, especially in technology, but also given that you're balancing two full-time jobs, which is home and office. I think you've answered that, and we've spoken about that. But anything else you'd like to share on this topic?
No, I think as long as you're able to, I mean, higher education will always help, if not now, at a later point in time. So see when your situation permits and do that. But of course, now in technology, things have moved on so much that it is easier. It has become easier to gain the skills without necessarily having a higher formal degree as well. So it's all right as long as you're learning the skill and able to contribute to the organization. I don't think, I mean, gone are the days when there has to be a degree, a higher degree to your title.
I would agree with that, because sometimes the time and the energy and the investment required for a full technical degree could be a little more difficult to do. However, we know what skills are required currently. We do have skills for the future, and I think just for everyone to again hone in those is something which will help them, more than really planning for something and then just not doing it. So it's better to pick up some of these skills. The last question, Usha, and this is from Rushabh. And Rushabh asks, how can men contribute to breaking the glass ceiling for women, especially at leadership levels? I think that's, again, a very good and very relevant question. So, the last question for today, Usha.
Thank you, Rishabh. Well, um, I think you will have. How can men help? Well, there's no easy answer, to be honest, because you will have to understand the difficulties that a woman faces on a day-to-day basis, managing both work and home. Perhaps if you have any woman at home, you can observe, um, and then see how you can map that to your other female colleagues, women colleagues. um, you know like I said, there are many tactical things we could do, hire more women in the organization and celebrate all the differences, etc. But those are still not long term solutions. It's the mind, it's not in the mindset, it's the ability to understand the difficulty. And for example, very quickly, I know we are on top of the hour, when a woman starts working, that's when she can empathize with what the man in her life or the partner in her life has been going through when he or she was working. Similarly, there are certain responsibilities that you can own to understand what it means to juggle different things and do very well in any arena that you go. So, thank you for the thought, Rishabh. But there's no easy way. I would say observe, keep observing, and ask the women in and around you as to what help they need. Because women do not come up and ask for help. Maybe you can go and ask them what help they need, and maybe that's one of the starting steps we can do.
Usha, you said that absolutely very well. Maybe I could just add one quick point is that, as a male ally or a supporter, wherever there are changes that you can make which are in a practical way, helpful for a woman, a colleague or a team member, then, please absolutely do that. We do like to believe that, there should be meritocracy in everything. So it's not about favoritism, but it's really
Yeah,
about ensuring there is equal opportunity provided, for
yeah.
all the genders to be able to do this. And so there are some of those things that could happen. I'm not going to any more questions, but I would like to say, Usha, there are lots of comments about how good the session was. Thanking you for your views, for sharing your experiences, and there's people who found it very enlightening, motivating. So I would like to end this session by thanking you once again for joining us today, and thanking Fractal for partnering with us, and thank you to all the ladies and everyone who's on this session for being so interactive and being a great contributor to our session today. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Serena. It's been a learning experience for me as well. Very nice experience. Thank you for having me here.